saw you had the arms raised celebration after the buzzer sounded. I'm sure that was a little bit in jest, but was it also just like, hey, it feels pretty good to win finally?
No, it was all just being funny. Still early in the year, obviously you want to win, and hadn't had good energy walking off this floor in a while. You know, we're going on the road on Wednesday, so we needed this one for sure. We're kind of the reverse of us in Houston last year. We were looking for our first road win.
That's right.
Yeah.
Forgot about me.
It's actually the same exact date as this one.
Say what?
November 20th, same date.
Didn't know that.
There you go. Klay
Now we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Pass it off.
Klay also had a big game that night too.
Yeah.
Just saying.
How important was Chris out there tonight? Could you feel the difference when he was in versus when he was out?
Plus 12 tells you everything about the game tonight and how he controlled tempo and just the action, trying to get us in and organized offensively, especially in that first half to finish out the second quarter. It was kind of a masterclass of just reading the flow. He called the play where I got the N1-3. Wasn't playing or anything from the bench. It just he saw a clear side and got me and Loon in the right action. So 12 assists, 1 turnover, plus 12, and you know, a game where, like I said, we needed to kind of connect both sides of the ball. It was a masterclass.
Chris said you guys had a practice a few days ago where there was kind of conversations about, you know, how to play offensively. I mean, did you feel like the offense needed a little reset? Did that practice help?
Yeah, I mean, losing forces you to check yourself and figure out what's going wrong, where you need to make adjustments. And for us, still room for improvement, but we struggle to create good looks consistently throughout the game, whether it was, you know, tough shots that then led to, you know, kind of morale killers or, you know, advantages, momentum going the other way, or kind of playing mindless basketball where you're just running around not understanding what you're trying to do. So we talked about how we need to just move the ball, make the simple pass. You need that reminder because everybody's trying hard to get themselves going or, you know, make the big shot or, you know, have the big moment because we're all built like that. Like there's competitive spirit about us, and you know, sometimes you work a lot harder. You just need to work a lot smarter, and I think that practice helped us get there. Still got a lot to improve though.
Along those lines, do you see Klay being restless to get going? And Steve was saying how he has to, you know, he sort of reminded him that give the ball up and it'll come back to you and you'll get better shots that way. And it seemed like that happened a few times in the first quarter.
Yeah, the ones he made in the first quarter were all off of good ball movement and action. And, you know, if you're not open, swing it. If you're being guarded, tightly cut. Simple stuff, but it's about trusting the offense that it's gonna come. And like I said, it's tough because, you know, I've been through, you know, spurts where you're not making shots and you're trying really hard to get it going. Like that's, you know, a shooter's nature. But it is kind of the beauty of the game when the ball is moving. It usually finds the right guy, especially the way that we play. And you know, he's obviously capable of making any shot out there, but especially the clean, good looks. And that's how you kind of build your confidence back up. Or I shouldn't say he doesn't lose confidence. Build your rhythm back up.
You ever had the PA announcer kind of get you on the shooting stroke there in free throw?
No, I used him as a scapegoat. I knew that was off from the jump. But
Oh,
then
really?
it's like a little, you know, 5-year-old like my son getting in trouble. Be like, oh, but she started it. It's like, nah. I knew it was off from the jump, but then I was like, oh, I can blame him.
Taking the high road there.
Yeah.
Steph, is it a trickier balance of when to attack more than normal? It feels like your shot is flowing, you're shooting a great percentage from three. Most people say much of the solution is for you to just take more shots, but that balance of when to attack and when not to, is it any different at all this year?
A little, just because I think throughout the bulk of a game, especially if you're playing a good defense, you know you're going to there's going to be a game plan to try to take certain actions away or certain good looks away, and I can kind of force the issue a little bit, especially if it's off the dribble. But reading the flow, kind of how our first quarter went, I think I only shot one shot, and it was about being a spacer if I don't have it. Had some screens off the ball, some driving kicks and stuff like that. And then reading the flow, like if things kind of get stagnant, I think we did a little bit better job in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, of being a little bit more methodical on offense with the ball, trying to get to some pick and roll stuff and play matchups. And then to Tim's question, like about CP, kind of getting us organized too. So I have to kind of read the game and know I can always, again, force the issue, but more so for us to be successful, there's got to be a balance, and every game is a little different.
Kind of more talking about Chris and him organizing. He said a couple times he feels like he's a quarterback. You and Klay are kind of like his receivers. Do you view it as a similar dynamic?
We when it works and when it looks good is when, again, what I keep saying is we're organized, because we're all understanding what we're trying to accomplish on each possession. And we knew when he came in, it would allow me to play off the ball a little bit more. And obviously me and Klay can set screens for each other, run off either side. Loon sets great screens. Draymond, sets great screens. Kind of frees Wig up at times, and where he can, get his looks and get driving angles and stuff like that. But the best version of CP, obviously, is a game like tonight where he's aggressive to shoot when he's open, but every possession he's just trying to move it to the open person or get us into an action that makes sense.
Played the whole fourth tonight. Did you look over at any point? Did you know you were going the full fourth?
No, he mentioned it at the third quarter, end of the third quarter. So, would have liked to start the fourth. And I came out like a minute or so earlier than I usually do in the third, and so I felt good. Didn't necessarily know if I meant the whole fourth. We didn't talk about that. It was just kind of play, and obviously we needed this game. And the way that things were flowing, I was getting good looks, and the offense was moving. And just, I feel fresh to finish, so it wasn't a big deal.
They've been pretty diligent with your minutes this year. Are you to the point, or is it to the point of the season you'd like to go, stretch it? It was 34-9. I know obviously the overtime the other night was a lot, but would you like to get back to 34, 36 on a night?
I prepare myself to do that for sure. And as much as it's talked about, there is a sense of protecting you from yourself, understanding it's 82 and I'm in my 15th year and all the things that go into sustaining yourself for, the entire season, especially for the playoffs. But you want that little bit of flexibility. Having deja vu of every year we talk about it. It's just yeah. But there's always going to be flexibility from time to time to kind of force the issue for sure. You can't do it every night. I'm not stubborn enough to say that.
Now this losing streak is over. Can you look back? Is it rationalization or true that you played some really good teams? You didn't lose to a bad team. Minnesota twice and Oklahoma City twice, and I guess Denver in there. Or is that to you that doesn't matter? You just can't lose games.
It is a reality check that you can't kind of walk through games and not execute at the level that we need to and have a defensive kind of presence and the margins. We talk about stop fouling, stop turning it over if you're going to try to beat a good team. And none of us are in a situation where, you're not going to learn that lesson, because down the stretch of the season, those are teams you're going to have to beat if you're trying to get out the West. And that's all we're trying to do. So you got to put that in the memory bank of where we fell short and what it's going to take to get over the hump if we play those teams again. Obviously not Cleveland, but, there's great teams all up and down the Western Conference. And, you're going to have to play really well to beat them. We know we can. If it comes to a playoff series down the stretch, we feel like we can beat anybody, but it's going to require an A-plus effort. If, it's in there, but we have to be able to do it.
You mentioned earlier playing off the ball when Chris is out there. How much of a difference does that make compared to when you're initiating the offense? You get different kinds of shots. And I realize Draymond, a lot of times, you're moving without the ball when he's sort of directing it. I'm just curious if there's a different rhythm or a different flow when it's Chris running the show and you're moving without the ball.
It's different but similar to Draymond because as soon as you get the rebound, whoever's closest kicks it out. I can run the corner, time my cuts and all that type of stuff, and I'm comfortable in those spaces. I don't want to do it the whole game because I know I'm also a threat off the with the ball in your hand, initiating and coming off ball screens and stuff like that. But it is a nice change of pace, especially for a defender to have to worry about both. You can kind of take him out to play on help side defense at times. You can just give them different looks, and that's helpful. Just a little bit more mindfulness, especially later in the game, of what we're trying to do is kind of what we learned over the course of this homestand. But those two guys, like, whatever, I don't know how many assists CP's averaging and Draymond. Like, Draymond's always been kind of the leader on that front in the last 7 years or whatever it is. My assists are way down because of that, and I'm comfortable there just because you're always a threat, whether I'm the one passing it or not.
Just a quick follow-up. Does it take you back at all to your freshman year at Davidson? Because you didn't play point at all that year, right?
Somewhere in Chicago, Illinois, Jason Richards is beaming with pride that you just compared him to Chris Paul. So I can't wait to send him this clip to tell him, yes, it does remind me of my first 2 years at Davidson, where Jay Rich was the point guard and I was the two guard, and now you got the Hall of Famer Chris Paul, so it's kind of cool. No offense to him, it was one of my concepts. I know. Exactly.